Joseph Golding's Last Christmas, author unknown, read in English. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. It was very strange, thought old Joseph Golding, that he couldn't be master of his own mind. He had lived a great many years, and neither remorse nor memory had ever been in the habit of disturbing him. But now it seemed to him as if the very foundations of his life were breaking up. He was well through his day's work. He had dined comfortably. He sat in an easy-chair in a luxurious drawing-room, whose crimson hangings shut out the still cold of the December afternoon. He had nothing to do but enjoy himself. Mr. Golding liked to enjoy himself at this season as much as others did, for it was Christmas Eve. What though he was in the habit of spending it solitarily, he liked solitude, perhaps because nothing more lively came in his way, and he was too shy and proud to look out for it. For many a year on Christmas Eve he had sat balancing in his mind the great accounts presented in his ledgers, the accumulating coffers at his bankers, the strokes of business he would make in future. Not so now. The year was drawing to a close. Some intruding voice kept whispering that in like manner so was his career. He could not put it from him, try as he would. The voice reminded him of a coming time when his life's work would be all done, even as his day's work was all done now, when he would be ready to sit down in the evening and look over the balance sheet of his deeds, good and evil. Curiously, the old days came trooping in slow procession before him, and he had been able to forget them for so very long. His dead wife. He had not loved her much when she was with him, but how vivid was his memory of her now. He could see her moving round the house, noiseless as a shadow, never intruding on him after he had once or twice repulsed her gruffly, but going on her own meek, still ways, with her face growing whiter every day. He began to understand, as he looked back, why her strength had failed, and she had been ready, when her baby came, to float out on the tide and let it drift her into God's haven. She had had enough to eat and to drink, but he saw now that he had left her heart to starve. Heaven, what a hard man he had been! He seemed to see her white, still face as he looked at it the last time before they screwed down the coffin lid, with the dumb reproach frozen on it, the eyes that would never plead vainly any more, closed for ever. He recalled how passionately the 3-days-old baby had cried in another room just at that moment, moving all the people gathered together for the funeral with a thrill of pity for the poor little motherless morsel. She was a passionate, wilful baby, all through her babyhood. He remembered that. She wanted, missed without knowing what the lack was, the love and sustenance which her mother would have given her, and protested against fate with all the might of her infant lungs. But as soon as she grew old enough to understand how useless it was, she had grown quiet too, just like her mother. He recalled her all through her girlhood, a shy, still girl, always obedient and submissive, but never drawing very near him. Why? Because he would have repulsed her as he repulsed her mother. He could see it now. It was very strange these facts should come back to him today, and their naked truth with them. He had been a cold, hard, ungenial man, without sympathy for any one human being, absorbed utterly in the pursuit of money-making. and so the child, Amy, had grown up in shadow without him. But suddenly, when she was 18, the old passionate spirit that had made her cry so when a baby must have awakened again, he thought. For she fell in love then and wished to marry in defiance of his wishes. He remembered her standing proudly before him after one of their quarrels, where he had been harsh and bitter and abusive of the man she wanted to call husband. She had borne in silence reproach of herself, but not of him who had become to her as her best existence. Her words came back to the old man now. "Father, do you know anything against Harry Church?"
"Yes," he had answered wrathfully. "I know that he is as poor as Job was when he sat among the ashes. He cannot keep a wife as a daughter of mine must be kept."
"Anything else, father?" looking him steadily in the eye.
"No, that's enough," he had thundered. "I'll tell you, besides, that if you marry him you must lie in the bed you'll make. My doors will never open to you again. Never."
He met with a will as strong as his own that time. She did marry him, and went away with him from her father's house. Mr. Golding had known the day the wedding was to take place, and disdained to stop it. He washed his hands of Harry Church and of Amy, his wife. She wrote home afterwards, over and over again, but Mr. Golding sent all the letters back unopened. Subsequent to that, they disappeared from the town, and he had never heard what became of them. It was at least 10 years ago now. It seemed very strange that these things should have come back tonight to haunt him, and with a wild remorse, a pitying regret. He had done nothing to recall them. Could it be his sense of failing health that brought them? If so, what sort of anguish might he not look for as he drew nearer and nearer to the ending? He began to wish that he knew what had been in those rejected letters, whether Amy had been suffering for anything that money could supply. The next thought that struck him was why he had opposed the marriage so virulently. It is true Harry Church had been but a clerk in his own employ, but he was a well-educated gentleman and would rise with time. Faithful, intelligent, persevering, respected, but poor. In that last word lay the head and front of Harry Church's offending. He, Joseph Golding, was rich then, he was far richer now, but he could not help asking it, what special good were his riches bringing him? He was an old man, the span of life running quickly on, and he was all alone. Who would take his gold then? He could not carry it along with him. All in a moment he saw it clearly. The dreadful truth stood naked and bare. His life and its object had been mistaken ones.
All alone, he kept saying to himself in a sort of vague self-pity. I've toiled and worked for naught.
But during this time, even now as he sat there, a message of love was on its way to him. Perhaps heaven had but been preparing his heart to receive it. He heard a ring at the doorbell, heard it without paying attention to it. Rings were nothing to him. People did not come on business to his residence, and of visitors he expected none. Down went his head, lower and lower, with its weight of thought. Meanwhile, 2 people were admitted into the hall below, a man and a little girl. The man had the appearance of a staid, respectable servant. He took off the child's warm cloak and hood, and she stood revealed, a dainty, delicate creature of some 8 years old, her golden curls drooping softly round her face, with its large blue eyes and its cherry lips. The admitting maid, not knowing what to make of this, called Mr. Golding's housekeeper, old Mrs. Osgood. The latter went into a tremor as she came forward and looked at the face. "It's Miss Amy's child," she exclaimed to the man nervously. "I couldn't mistake the likeness."
"Miss Amy's that was," he answered. "Mrs. Harry Church she has been this many a year."
"I know. It is as much as my place is worth to admit any child of hers here."
"You are Mrs. Osgood!" exclaimed the little girl. "Mamma said I should be sure to see you."
"Here's a blessed lamb, and so she remembers me."
"She talks of you often. She says you were always kind to her. Nobody but you loved her."
"Well, I did love her. The old house has never been the same since she went out of it. What's your name, my pretty one?"
"Amy."
"Amy," repeated the housekeeper, lifting her hands as if there were some wonder in it.
"And Mamma said you would let me go up alone to Grandpapa."
"And so you shall," decided Mrs. Osgood after a minute's hesitation. "I won't stand in the way of it, let master be as angry with me as he will. He is up in the drawing-room all by himself." The man sat down to wait, and the child went up alone. Opening the door, she went softly in, not speaking. Perhaps the stern-looking old man sitting there with bent head awed her to silence. Joseph Golding, waking up from his deep reverie, saw a letter held out to him. He took it mechanically, supposing its messenger, hidden behind his large chair, was one of his waiting maids. With a singular quickening of pulse, he recognized his daughter's writing. She had waited all these silent years, she told him, because she was determined never to write to him again until they were rich enough for him to know that she did not write from any need of his help. They had passed these 10 years in the West, and heaven had prospered them. Her husband was a rich man now, and she wanted from her father only his love, wanted only that death should not come between them, and either of them go to her mother's side without having been reconciled to the other.
"How did this come here? Who brought it?" demanded Mr. Golding in his usual imperious manner.
"I did, Grandpapa."
He sprang up at the soft, timid voice, as if some fright took him, and stared at the lovely vision, standing there like a spirit on his hearthstone, with her white face and her gleaming golden hair. Was it real? Where was he? Who could this child be? But as he looked, the likeness flashed upon him, and he grew hungry to clasp her to him. It was the little Amy of the old days grown into beauty, for Amy had never been so wondrously fair as this.
"Come here, my child. Don't be afraid. Tell me what your name is."
"Amy, Grandpapa."
Another Amy. Grandpapa. He felt the sobs rising up in his heart with a great flood of emotion, but he choked them back.
"What have they told you about me?" he rejoined after a long pause. "Have they bid you hate me?"
"They always told me that you were far away toward where the sun rose, and if I were good they would bring me to see you some day. Every night I say in my prayers, 'God bless Papa and Mamma, and God bless Grandpapa.'"
"Why didn't they bring you? What made them let you come alone?"
"Mamma sent me with John to give you the letter," was the simple answer. "The carriage is at the gate waiting for me."
"Who is John?"
"Papa's servant."
"And where are they staying?"
"At the hotel. We only got here this morning."
Mrs. Osgood, hovering in the hall, looked on in wonder. Her master was coming downstairs calling for his hat and coat, and leading the child. He got into the carriage with her and it drove away. Mr. Golding was wondering vaguely whether it were real. They arrived at last, and the child led him in, opening a door at the end of a long corridor. She spoke cheeringly.
"Mamma, here's Grandpapa. He said he would come back with me."
Mr. Golding's head went off in a swim. Advancing weakness tells upon people in such moments as these. He sat down, and there were Amy's arms, his own Amy's, about his neck. Which of the two sobbed the most could not be told. Why had he never known what he lost through all those vanished years?
"Father, are we reconciled at last?" "I don't know, my daughter, until you tell me whether you forgive me."
"There should be no talk about forgiveness," she said. "You went according to your own opinion of what was right, and perhaps I was to blame too. Father, it is enough that God has brought us together again in peace. I thought that no one could resist my little Amy, least of all her grandpapa." He looked up. The child stood by silently, the firelight glittering on her golden hair, her face shining strangely sweet. He put out his arms and drew her into them close, where no child, not even his own, had ever nestled before. Oh, how much he had missed in life! He knew it now. He felt her clinging hold round his neck. Her kisses dropped upon his face like the pitying dew from heaven. And he, was it himself or another soul in his place? "Father, see!" Amy's voice had a full, cheerful ring in it. Her married life had been happy. Mr. Golding turned at the call. "Here are Harry and the boys waiting to speak to you," she said in a less assured tone. He shook his son-in-law's hand heartily. Old feuds, old things were over now, and all was become new. In his heart, until that trouble came, he had always liked Harry Church. Then he looked at the two boys, brave, merry little fellows, of whom he might be proud. Explanations ensued. Fortune had favoured Mr. Church. They had come back for good, and were already looking out for a house.
"No house but mine," interrupted Joseph Golding. "It will want a tenant when I am gone. You must come home tomorrow."
"Tomorrow will be Christmas Day," said his daughter half doubtingly.
"All the better. If Christmas was never kept in my house, it shall be now. I shall not live to see another, Amy."
She looked up at the changed thin face, and could not contradict him. Someone going out to the West Indies had told them how Joseph Golding was breaking. The news had caused them to hurry home prematurely. Amy said to her husband that if her father died unreconciled to her, she should be full of remorse for ever.
"You will come home tomorrow, all of you," repeated Mr. Golding. "And mind, Amy, you do not go away again."
"But if the children should be too much for you, father?"
"When they are, I'll tell you," he said, with a touch of the former gruffness. "The old house is large enough."
He went out and found his way to the shops, open to the last on Christmas Eve in the old town, looking for Christmas gifts. New work for him, but he entered into it earnestly. Perambulating the streets like a bewildered Santa Claus, he went home laden with books and toys and jewels and bonbons. Mrs. Osgood lifted her hands and thought the end of the world must be coming.
"Help me to put these things away, Osgood. Don't stare as if you were moonstruck. And look here, there'll be company to dinner tomorrow. Mind you send in a good one."
"The best that ever was seen on a table, master. If it's for them, I think it may be for—"
"Well, it is. Miss Amy's coming home again.
Heaven be praised, sir. The house has been but a dull one since she left it."
"They are all coming, and they will not go away again, Osgood. If you want more servants, you can get them."
"It's the best Christmas box you could have given me, master." And they came. Amy and Amy's husband and the pretty boys were there, and best of all, the sweet little girl with the golden hair sitting next to Grandpapa. It was too happy a party for loud mirth. And among them Joseph Golding saw, or fancied he saw, another face, over which almost 30 years ago he had watched the gravesod piled. A face sad and wistful no longer, but bright with a strange glory. Close over beyond him she seemed to stand, and he heard, or fancied that he heard, a whisper from her parted lips, though it might have come only from his own heart. Peace on earth and goodwill toward men. End of Joseph Golding's Last Christmas. Read by Ruth Golding. Christmas 2015.
Christmas Questions by Walston Dixie. Read in English. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.
How old is Santa Claus? Where does he keep? And why does he come when I'm asleep? His hair is so white in the pictures, I know. Guess he stands on his head all the time in the snow. But if he does that, then why don't he catch cold? He must be as much as most 20 years old. I'd just like to see him once stand on his head and dive down the chimney as Grandmother said. Why don't his head get all covered with black? And if he comes head first, how can he get back? Mama knows about it, but she won't tell me. I shall keep awake Christmas Eve, then I can see. I have teased her to tell me, but Mama, she won't. So I'll find out myself now, see if I don't.
End of Christmas Questions by Walston Dixie. Read for LibriVox by LisaRubio, San Rafael, California, November 2015.
The Burning Babe by Robert Southwell. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. As I in hoary winter's night stood shivering in the snow, surprised I was with sudden heat which made my heart to glow, and lifting up a fearful eye to view what fire was near, a pretty babe all burning bright did in the air appear, who scorched with excessive heat such floods of tears did shed, as though his flood should quench his flames with which his tears were bred. Alas, quoth he, but newly born in fiery heats I fry, yet none approach to warm their hearts or feel my fire but I. My faultless breast the furnace is, the fuel wounding thorns. Love is the fire, and sighs the smoke, the ashes shames and scorns. The fuel justice layeth on, and mercy blows the coals. The metal in this furnace wrought are men's defiled souls. For which, as now on fire I am to work them to their good, so will I melt into a bath to wash them in my blood. With this he vanished out of sight and swiftly shrunk away, and straight I call it unto mind that it was Christmas Day. End of The Burning Babe by Robert Southwell. Read by Winston, Tharp.
Santa Claus by Julia C.R. Dorr. Read in English. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A voice from out of the northern sky. On the wings of the limitless winds I fly. swifter than thought over mountain and vale, city and moorland, desert and dale. From the north to the south, from the east to the west, I hasten regardless of slumber or rest. Oh, nothing you dream of can fly as fast as I on the wings of the windy blast. The wandering stars look out to see who he that flieth so fast may be, and their bright eyes follow my earthward track by the gleam of the jewels I bear in my pack. For I have treasures for high and for low, rubies that burn like the sunset glow, diamond rays for the crowned queen, for the princess pearls with their silver sheen. I enter the castle with noiseless feet, the air is silent and soft and sweet, and I lavish my beautiful tokens there, fairings to make the fair more fair. I enter the cottage of want and woe, the candle is dim and the fire burns low, but the sleepers smile in a happy dream as I scatter my gifts by the moon's pale beam. There's never a home so low, no doubt, but I in my flight can find it out. Not a hut so hidden but I can see the shadow cast by the lone roof tree. There's never a home so proud and high that I am constrained to pass it by, nor a heart so happy it may not be, happier still when blessed by me. What is my name? Oh, who can tell? Though in every land 'tis a magic spell. Men call me that, and they call me this, yet the different names are the same. I wish, gift-bearer to all the world am I, joy-giver, light-bringer wherever I fly. But the name I bear in the courts above, my truest and holiest name, is Love. End of Santa Claus by Julia C. R. Dorr. Recorded by LisaRubio, San Rafael, California, December 2015. Happy holidays!
Dumnezeu și om, de Mihai Eminescu. Aceasta este o înregistrare LibriVox. Toate înregistrările LibriVox sunt în domeniul public. Pentru mai multe informații sau pentru a deveni voluntar, te rog să vizitezi LibriVox.org. Poezia a fost citită în limba română de Livia. Dumnezeu și om. Cărții vechi, roase de molii, cu păreții afumați, i-am deschis unsele pagini, cu a lor litere bătrâne, strâmbe ca gândirea oarbă unor secole străine, triste ca aerul bolnav de sub murii afundați. Dar pe pagina din urmă, în trăsuri greoaie, seci, te-am văzut născut în paie, fața mică și urâtă, tu, Cristoase, o ieroglifă, stai cu fruntea amărâtă. Tu, Mario, stai tăcută, țeapănă, cu ochii reci. Era vremi acelea, Doamne, când gravura grosolană ajuta numai al minții zbor de foc putezător, pe când mâna încă copilă, ochiul sânt și arzător, nu putea să-l înțeleagă, să-l imite în icoană. Însă sufletul cel vergin te gândea în nopți senine, te vedea râzând prin lacrimi, cu zâmbirea ta de înger. Lângă tine îngenunchiată, muma ta stătea în uimire, ridicând, frumoasă, sântă, către cer a sale mâne. În pădurile antice ale Indiei cea mare, printre care, ca oaze, sunt imperii fără fine, regii duc în pacea eternă a popoarelor destine, închinând înțelepciunei viața lor cea trecătoare. Dar un mag bătrân ca lumea îi adună și le spune că un nou gând se naște în oameni, mai puternic și mai mare decât toate până acum, și o stea strălucitoare arde în cer, arătând calea la a evului minune. Fi va oare dezlegarea celora nedezlegate? Fi va visul omenirei grămădit într-o ființă? Fi va brațul care ștergea omenimei neputință, ori izvorul cel de taină a luminii adevărate? va putea să risipească cea neliniște eternă, cea durere ce-i născută din puterea mărginită și dorința fără de margini? Lăsați vorba vă pripită, mergeți regi spre închinare la născutul în tavernă. În tavernă, în umilință s-a născut, dar adevărul și în fașe dânjosire e înfășat eternul rege? Din durerea unui secol, din martiriul lumii întrege, răsări o stea de pace, luminând lumea și cerul. Sarcini de aur și de smirnă ei încarcă pe cămile și pornesc în caravană după steaua plutitoare, ce în aerul cel umed pare o așchie din soare, lunecând pe bolta albastră la culcușul eternei mile. Și atunci inima creștină ea vedea pustia întinsă și prin ea plutind ca umbre împărați din răsărit, umbre regii și tăcute ce urmau astrul fericit. Strălucea pustia albă de-a lunei raze ninsă, iar pe muntele cu dafin, cu dumbrave de măslin, povestind povești bătrâne, au văzut păstorii steaua, cu zâmbirea ei ferice și cu razele de neauă, și-au urmat sfințita-i cale către staulul divin. Azi, artistul te concepe ca pe un rege în tronul său, dar inima-i deșartă, mâna-i fină n-o urmează. De-a veacului suflare, a lui inimă e trează, și în ochiul lui cu minte tu ești om, nu Dumnezeu. Azi, gândirea se aprinde ca și focul cel de paie, ieri ai fost credința simplă, însă sinceră, adâncă. Împăra fuși omenirei, crezi în tine era stâncă. Azi pe pânză te aruncă, ori în marmură te taie. Sfârșitul poeziei Dumnezeu și om de Mihai Eminescu.
Pantomime by John J. Jennings. Read in English. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. There are two kinds of clowns familiar to people who patronize amusements. The clown who juggles old jokes in the circus ring, and the clown whose only language is that of facial expression, and whose grins and grimaces, together with his extraordinary antics and white face, are more acceptable to and interpretable by childhood than the ancient and petrified humorisms of his brother laugh-maker of the sawdust circle. There is no circus clown in the world could stretch the heartstrings of an audience as far and hold them there longer than George L. Fox, the king of pantomimic merrymakers. His was a face readable as the pages of a book printed in good large type, and the wonderful swift changes that came over it were like fleecy clouds and sunshine chasing each other across a summer sky. Poor Fox, who sent a thrill of joy into the hearts of thousands of little folks and caused their rosy lips to overbubble with silvery laughter, his was a hard, an undeserved fate, death in a madhouse without a glint of reason to light him on his journey across the dark river. He has left no successor more worthy of his place than George H. Adams, whose talent obtained him the recognition of Adam Forpar, the showman, with whom he is now in partnership. Fraser and clowns of minor merit fill the rest of the places, but Adams is at the top of the heap, and may be fitly termed the Grimaldi of today. It is pleasant to visit a theatre during the progress of a pantomime. The house is filled with old and young in equal proportions, or if there is any preponderance it is on the side of the little folks, who clamber up on the backs of chairs and laugh freely and sweetly as the birds in the forest sing, every time they catch sight of the chalked head of the clown, and the grey tuft standing like a turret above poor old Pantaloon's wig. and the old people laugh all the heartier because the innocent young people have their hearts and mouths filled with joy. The pantomime may be Humpty Dumpty, or the Magic Flute, or the Merry Miller. Call it by whatever name you will, an intense interest is taken in it, and new enjoyment is found in every performance. The tricks are the same, the mechanical effects identical with those of every other pantomime you may have seen, and even the specialty sketches that divide the acts of the dumb show seem to be of very close kindred with those of former attractions of this kind. Still everybody enjoys the fun just as many people laugh at the chestnuts, vulgariter, old jokes, of the man in motley attire, who tries to make the patrons of the circus feel happy. It makes no difference to the miniature men and women who are Humpty Dumpty's best friends and admirers how the mechanical effects of a pantomime are produced. They do not care much to know that the pig, Humpty Dumpty and Pantaloon stretch across the width of the stage in an endeavour to tear it from each other, has a rubber body, that the bricks the clown throws at everybody are only paper boxes, that the trick pump is worked from the side scenes with a string, that the clothes which suddenly, and as if by some invisible influence, vanish into the sides of houses or up through windows, have light but strong black thread, which the little ones cannot see at a distance, attached to them. The big policeman is to them a stern and gigantic reality, and it affords them more fun to imagine every time Humpty throws or makes a blow at anybody, that the stinging sound is a sure indication that his aim was well taken. They do not know that the sound as of receiving a blow is the result of slapping the hands together. All the simple illusions of the scene and of the action are to them actual facts, and they appear all the more ridiculous and are all the more effective on this account. When Humpty Dumpty dives through the side of a house, disappearing behind, there are men in waiting to catch him, and when he sits down to read his newspaper and the candle begins to grow beyond his reach, then falling, as he attempts to go higher, with a sudden bang, and the clown comes tumbling down after it, as Jill did after Jack when they went up the hill for the bucket of beer, few of the big or little people know that the candle runs down through one of the legs of the table and is all wood except the waxen bit at the top. All these little mysteries have their charms for the years of childhood, and in no country are the pleasures of the pantomime so fully recognised as in England, where, on Boxing Night, the 26th of December, children crowd the theatres to witness the Christmas pantomime. In some theatres here the custom of providing pantomime for the Christmas holidays is adhered to, but as there are not enough Grimaldis or Foxes or Adamses or Frasers to go around, the supply being very limited, we cannot compete with England in this respect. As Adams is the only pantomimist who can lay any claim to the mantle of George L. Fox, if clowns can be said to have mantles, a short biography may not be out of place. He is 28 years old, is a native of England, and is the eldest son of Charles H. Adams, one of the best pantaloons in the country. He comes from a family of circus people, being a descendant of the famous cooks, riders and clowns, and is a cousin of W. W. Cole, the circus manager. He was apprenticed to the manager of Astley's in London when he was 6 years of age, and remained there 8 years. After appearing as clown with a circus in Denmark, he came to America, and for several years travelled with different circuses. His first appearance as clown in the pantomime was in Brooklyn, New York, in 1872, under the management of Tim Donnelly, who gave a pantomime every year during the Christmas holidays. His father was the stage manager for Donnelly, and suggested to George the idea of playing clown. George refused at first, but finally at his father's earnest solicitation decided to go on. He made an unmistakable hit, and from that time deserted the sawdust arena and adopted the stage. After several successful seasons with Nick Roberts and Tony Denyer, he last season accepted an offer of partnership with Adam Forepaugh to run a show under his own name. In the last Christmas number of the London Graphic I found the following excellent article on Boxing Night, as the little folks of London enjoy it. The very first night of anticipated pleasure has come to 9/10 of the little ones who gaze upon the scene in silent wonder and astonishment. Imagination in its wildest dreams never pictured anything so wonderful as this. There have been little theatricals at home, plays in the back drawing-room. Some fairy tale has been enacted for which kind sisters have supplied the wardrobe, whilst mamma has presided over the piano orchestra. It was good fun to crawl across the mimic stage in a hearthrug, pretending to be a wolf or bear, and to hear the laughter of kind friends in front, but all that home amusement, the curiosity and contrivances, the songs and dances, were, indeed, child's play when compared to a real theatre on Boxing Night. What importance is given to the child by being considered old enough to sit up so late as this? What a sense of mystery and wonderment to be driven through the lighted streets, to see the decorated shops set out with Christmas presents and New Year's gifts, and to behold for the first time the bright electric light on the bridges and embankment. But this is far better than all, and only a very little removed from fairyland. How the myriad lights in the great chandeliers glisten and sparkle, and the stage footlights dazzle! How splendidly the orchestra seems to play! And hark! The boys in the gallery are taking up the tune, and singing together with wonderful swing and precision. One comic song and street tune follows another. The band suggests, and the young musicians take it up with a will. Just now they had been a pelting of the pit with orange peel, all in good fun, of course. The lads in their shirt sleeves had whistled and screamed, and saluted friends in distant corners of the gallery, but now all this horseplay is quieted by music and melody. It is Boxing Night, and there must be patriotism as well as pleasure. Rule Britannia, God bless the Prince of Wales, and God save the Queen, are sung from thousands of lusty throats, and all the audience rise to their feet waving hats and handkerchiefs. Loyalty is as necessary as love at Christmas time. And what has that good old wizard Blanchard prepared for the happy children? He must be as immortal as Father Christmas, and certainly is quite as popular. He will be the guide up the rocks of romance, and away to the fields of fairyland. He will lead his happy followers amidst ogres and giants, and elves and fays, to wizard castles and enchanted dells. Now you will be at the bottom of the sea, where lovely queens wave seaweed wands, and now on land amidst the yellow cornfields and the bluebell lanes. There will be song and dance and the madcap pranks of thousands of children, Lilliputian armies and glittering armour, poetry and processions, hobby horses and the dear old clown and harlequin and pantaloon supporting airy-fairy Columbine, if they would only ring that prompter's bell and pull up that tantalising curtain. The noise is hushed, the music stops, the overture is over. But wait. What are they doing behind the curtain? There are beating hearts also in the manufactory of pleasure. Christmas time means food and raiment to the great majority of those who are awaiting the prompter's signal. They have come from courts and alleys, from cold, comfortless rooms, from care and poverty, from watching and from want, to this great busy hive that uncharitable people abuse and ridicule. Times have been bad, the winter has advanced too soon, wages have been slack. But all will be mended now that Christmas has come again. Hearts beat lightly under the princes' tunics and the dancers' bodices, for every mickle makes a muckle, and there is work here, from the proud position of head of the Amazonian army to the humble individual who earns a shilling a night for throwing carrots in a crowd and returning slaps in a rally. And the training and discipline of the rehearsals up to this anxious moment have not been without their advantage. Punctuality, silence, order, and sobriety are the watchwords here. There have been no idling, dawdling, and philandering, as many silly people imagine. Even the little children have learned something, perhaps their letters, perhaps the art of singing in unison, certainly the merit of being smart and useful. But now it is the great examination day. The lessons are over, and the result is soon to be known. What a wild, fantastic scene it is! A very carnival of costumes. Fairies, and hop-o'-my-thumbs, monkeys, and all the miscellaneous mixture of the menagerie, gorgeous knights in armour, and spangled sirens, Titania and her train, pasteboard chariots, wands and crystal fountains, fruits and forest trees, mothers, dressers, carpenters, and costermongers for the crowd, all mixed up in apparent confusion, but in reality as well drilled and disciplined as an army prepared for action. All belong to some separate department or division. There is a leader for every squad, who is responsible for his men, and if anything goes wrong a prompt fine is a very wholesome punishment. It has been weary work during the last few rehearsals, and certain scenes have had to be repeated again and again. The testing of the scenery has delayed the action, and it has been late enough before these busy bees have got to bed. But the excitement of the moment gives new vitality. The night has come, and everyone is bound to do his or her best. Everything is smart and new, and the girls and children are proud of their costumes, in which they strut about admiringly. The stage manager has recovered his amiability, and calls everyone "my dear." A rapid, business-like glance is cast over the various scenes to see that everything is straight and shipshape. The reports come up from the various departments to say there are no defaulters. The gasman is at his post, and the limelight man at his station. The ballet master, with his flag in hand, is standing ready on his stool. "Ready?" "Yes, sir," is the answer. Up go the footlights with a flare. A bell rings. The curtain rises, and the happy people before and behind the Christmas curtain meet. End of Pantomime by John J. Jennings.
A Christmas Reverie by Alif Cheam. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Tomorrow, alas, I am booked to go and dine with our Colonel and Mrs. CO. I hate to depart from my usual way, and tomorrow, by Jove, will be Christmas Day. One feels, now one hasn't a regular mess, it's a bore to go out and a nuisance to dress. And a feed at the Commandant's bungalow is a dreary attempt at Christmas, you know. The punker instead of the Christmas fire, the Colonel instead of the dear old squire, the lizard and withering noonday glow instead of the robin and frost and snow. I know, after all, that my lot isn't bad, but somehow or other it makes me sad at a season like this, when the thoughts will roam, to think what they're doing just now at home. I fancy I see them, the squire and all, in the breakfast room in the dear old hall. There's snow on the drive and the grove of birch, and they're ringing the chimes in the village church. Yes, yonder he sits in his wonted place, with a smile on his fresh, benignant face. And the mother, she's there at the other end, and Harry and Jack and Jane and a friend. I wonder whether they're altered much. The dad's crisp hair had a silvery touch when I said goodbye, and he bore up so. And that, why, it's nearly 10 years ago. The mother, too, she was tall and erect, but she's stooping a little now, I expect. And her hair in its rich and glossy bands has been fingered, perhaps, by time's rough hands. But it cannot alter her look so kind. It robs, but it leaves the heart behind. And I see her beam happily round in the way that she always beamed upon Christmas Day. There's Harry, who taught me fine escapades. He's got his majority now in the Guards, and they say that he's leading a steady life and thinking of looking about for a wife. There's Jack. Why, I left him a rollicking lad, and now he's a mate on an ironclad. And Jane, a mere baby in frock and curl, if her photograph's true, is a beautiful girl. They're sitting all round the family spread. There's a pasty of game and a big boar's head. There's holly on window and picture frame, and the fire burns up with a crackling flame. Then the quiet old rector looks in on his way and bids them a blithesome Christmas Day. And together they walk through the grove of birch over the stile to the village church. At the graveyard gate the churchwardens stand with a Merry Christmas and hat in hand. The grocer, the smithy, and Farmer Ball, and the squire has a kindly word for all. Then, when the shadows of night descend, the hall is lighted from end to end. There's a bonfire huge on the lawn outside, and within the mother is in her pride. For she loves this night, the best of the year, and loads her board with the Christmas cheer, the mincemeat pies and the loin of beef, and the grand plum pudding with holly leaf. There's happiness, too, in the old squire's face, as he rises and says the Christmas grace. He chuckles and laughs and cracks his joke, and the party's a party of merry folk. Then he fills a bumper up to the brim. He toasts them all, and they all toast him. A Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone who is near and dear. But I fancy the mother's eyes are wet when the old man says, "There is one toast yet, him absent, the youngster who's far away. God give him a Merry Christmas Day." Ah me, I know that my lot's not bad, but the reverie somehow makes me sad. And this is a time when the thoughts will roam, wherever we are, to the scenes of home. End of A Christmas Reverie by Aleph Cheam, a pseudonym of Walter Yldz. Read by Ruth Golding, Christmas 2015.